Second embarrassment for the Trump administration after Iran's unacceptable nuclear proposal. Now a U.S. senator is exposing how badly the Iran war has drained America's arsenal. American lawmaker Mark Kelly went on record about U.S. losses, detailing depleted missile magazines and raising tough questions for Trump and his war team. Kelly revealed U.S. Tomahawk, ATACMS type, THAAD, Patriot and SM-3 stockpiles have been massively hit, with analysts warning that years of production will be needed to rebuild these key weapons. Left red-faced, U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth lashes out at Senator Mark Kelly, accusing him of an info leak from a classified briefing and threatening legal action. U.S. War Secretary Pete Hegseth accused Senator Mark Kelly of leaking details from a classified Pentagon briefing in recent television remarks. Hegseth claimed Kelly was blabbing on live TV about information from a Pentagon briefing, suggesting the Arizona senator may have violated his oath. The Pentagon chief said the department's legal counsel would review Kelly's comments to determine whether any rules on handling classified information were breached. In response, Kelly said Hegseth himself had discussed the same issues in a recent public hearing of the Senate Armed Services Committee. The Arizona senator argued that the information he mentioned was not classified and had already been aired in open session and public discussions. Mark Kelly also accused President Trump and Hegseth of hiding the true financial and strategic cost of the war with Iran from the American public. This exchange followed Kelly's interview on CBS, where he said U.S. missile stockpiles had been hit hard by operations in the Iran war. The senator also warned that replenishing U.S. missile inventories could take years, citing briefings on production timelines and industrial capacity. In that interview, Kelly specifically referenced Tomahawk, ATACMS, THAAD, Patriot and SM-3 stockpiles as areas of concern. He cautioned that depleted missile stockpiles could affect U.S. readiness for a potential future conflict with China, especially if such a war lasted months or longer. The latest dispute adds to a months-long feud between Hegseth and Kelly, a former Navy pilot and retired captain, over the senator's criticism of Pentagon policy. Hegseth previously sought to retroactively demote Kelly from his retired military rank by threatening his Navy pension and status over political dispute. Iran has submitted a sweeping counterproposal aimed at ending the conflict with the United States and Israel, laying out detailed conditions for broader regional settlement. According to Iranian state-linked media, Tehran delivered the proposal on May 10 through mediator Pakistan, formalizing its position in the ongoing ceasefire and peace talks. The plan calls for an end to hostilities across all fronts, including the Israel-Lebanon border and the wider Gulf, while seeking explicit guarantees that the US and its allies will not launch fresh attacks. Iran also demanded war-related compensation, including reparations for damage caused by sanctions and military pressure, and demanded recognition of its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran further called for the release of its frozen overseas assets and a short-term relief on oil export restrictions to ease the impact of the sanctions regime. Iran asked the U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control to suspend sanctions on Iranian oil sales for 30 days, presenting this as a confidence-building measure during the negotiation phase. The proposal also demanded an end to the naval blockade around its ports and key maritime trade routes, arguing that the blockade has caused major economic disruption. Sources told Iranian media that the counterproposal includes a clause on Iranian management of the Strait of Hormuz, giving Tehran a central role in controlling and monitoring traffic. Washington has repeatedly rejected any Iranian-led control over the Strait of Hormuz, describing the idea of Tehran managing the choke point as unacceptable and a threat to global shipping. The Iranian proposed framework reportedly includes a 30-day negotiation period after ceasefire takes hold, during which both sides would work toward converting a temporary truce into a more permanent settlement. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reported that Iran could be open to temporarily pausing uranium enrichment as part of an interim deal. However, Tehran is said to be willing to accept only a far shorter pause than the 20-year suspension that the US has reportedly proposed in its own draft plan. Iran also reportedly rejected any demand to dismantle or cap the number of its nuclear facilities, insisting that its nuclear infrastructure remains a sovereign right. US President Donald Trump reportedly fumed over Iran's counterproposal, posting on Truth Social that he considered its terms totally unacceptable despite the existing ceasefire. Trump said he had reviewed the proposal and rejected its core elements outright, including Iran's demand for control over the Strait of Hormuz and the scale of sanctions relief. Trump's strong rejection came as he told Axios that he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on May 10th. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I don't like their letter. It's inappropriate. I don't like their response. Iran has been tapping along many nations for 47 years. Iran talks are my situation, not everybody else's." Unquote. Meanwhile, Iranian officials insisted the plan was based on defending Iran's rights and sovereignty, rather than accommodating US red lines. A source told ATACMS that the negotiating team was not drafting proposals to please Trump, but to ensure Iran's security and economic interests were protected. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian reiterated that dialogue does not mean surrender, stressing that talks are a tool of diplomacy, not concession. In a statement on Sunday, Pezeshkian declared that Iran would never bow down to the enemy, framing the counterproposal as a firm but conditional path toward ending the war.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that we will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.